It's pretty interesting talking to people about what browsers they use because I think it's kind of like personality test. It's kind of like seeing what's your favorite champion in a game, what's your favorite character in a movie. I think it tells a lot about their personality, at least in terms of the use of the cyberspace. My favorite browsers, Mozilla Firefox, because it's got the containers thing that you can use. Otherwise, Brave is probably my favorite browser. I use Brave on my phone because it's automatically there's no ads. It blocks all the ads and it's awesome. Yeah, I would like to know what your favorite browser is. But when I read this article, the title of this article, I was curious. It's I don't exactly know what it's trying to say just by reading the title, but it seems to say that you should be developing around the browser. If this is true, that's big, but I don't know how that would be possible. Because when you does that mean when you develop for one browser? And I don't know how that scales. But let's have a read anyway. Stop ignoring the browser, the biggest front-end shift in a decade. Native browser APIs now provide powerful alternatives for routing, state management, and components. Never mind the frameworks. Use the browser. An article written by Alexander T. Williams on the New Stack website. I like this quote. Be so good they can't ignore you. I think there's another version of this quote. Be so good that they can't catch up or... Actually, I think this is the original. Be so good that they can't ignore you. The web used to feel like a messy bazaar of competing ideas, half-broken libraries, and duct-taped solutions pretending to be standards. Then came frameworks, strutting in like saviors, promising order. But something curious is happening now. The browsers themselves are absorbing many of those framework superpowers directly into the platform. Frameworks aren't dead, but their monopoly over developer experience is cracking, and the standards movement is sharper than it has been in a decade. The fight isn't between React and Angular anymore, as the two have joined forces against a new foe, browsers. Frameworks were always a patch, not a cure. Frameworks earned their dominance because the web is frankly unprepared for modern application development. Developers need routing, state management, templating, component isolation, all of which browsers weren't offering. React and Angular didn't just become popular by hype. They filled massive gaps that standard had ignored for too long. But let's be honest, they were always stopgaps. Their APIs bent the web into something workable, but often at the cost of performance and complexity. Think about React's Virtual DOM, a clever hack to make DOM manipulation less painful, or Angular's two-way binding, which looked magical until you saw the mess it created at scale. These ideas thrived because the platform was lagging behind. The dirty secret of frameworks is that they built castles on sand, and browsers are finally paving the ground solid beneath them. Yet in 2025, do we really need those layers of indirection when the platform itself offers solutions like template literals, shadow DOM, or the new web component APIs? The dirty secret of frameworks is that they built castles on sand, and browsers are finally paving the ground solid beneath them. This pivot has the potential to improve release management, code upkeeps, and so much more. That sounds all really promising, but I think the idea is like how does it translate if you build for one browser, how does it translate to other browsers? Maybe it's just very simple. The rise of native platform features. Standards are eating features that were once exclusive to frameworks and is happening faster than many realize. Shadow DOM now provides true component encapsulation without the need for third-party libraries. ES modules killed the dependency spaghetti of script tags, giving us native imports and exports. Add to that fetch, async wait, and streams, features that once required polyfills or full-blown libraries, and the platform looks like a different beast that it was a decade ago. Take routing. Long jewel in the crown of frameworks. The Navigation API and View Transition API allow developers to create fluid native-like navigation effects with minimal code. State management. Signals and reactive primitives. The message is clear. Frameworks are no longer the gatekeepers of modern web building blocks. Okay, so I think this is saying that browsers have many capabilities that the frameworks are trying to address now, so that we probably don't need frameworks, or even we could even go vanilla. Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes at the start I get lost in what the article is trying to say. Signals and reactive primitives are landing directly in standards discussions with the same ideas. Frameworks popularized being written into the DNA of browsers. And when you combine all that with the web animation API, CSS container queries, and the steady march of performance APIs, the web platform starts to feel less like a half-finished product and more like a first-class OS. So I think this is saying that, right now the framework is addressing all these things that can already be addressed by the browsers. So I guess it can be much lighter weight. This isn't theoretical. Major apps are already leaning on these native capabilities, cutting down on bundle size and maintenance debt. The message is clear. Frameworks are no longer the gatekeepers of modern web building blocks. I think this is moving in the right direction, because everyone is using some sort of browsers, and if they all have capabilities already to begin with, why complicate the development? Why frameworks still won't disappear? It would be lazy to claim frameworks are finished. They still solve hard problems, especially around developer ergonomics, scaling large teams, and opinionated architectures. Frameworks provide conventions, and those conventions save hours of bickering in code reviews, standards for all their progress, and are designed to be flexible and minimal. They rarely prescribe how to actually organize your code. Consider React's ecosystem, the libraries, the tooling, the conventions around the state, and its massive developer base, even if the browser offers equivalent to hooks or context. I don't know that. I didn't know that the browsers offered equivalents to hooks or context, and I wouldn't even know how to use them. The sheer familiarity keeps React sticky. Angular still thrives in enterprise because it's a full battery included solution, and newer frameworks like Svelte or Solid.js keeps innovating on ergonomics rather than raw feature parity with standards. The real shift isn't frameworks vanishing. Instead, it's frameworks being forced to justify themselves. The real shift isn't frameworks vanishing. Instead, it's frameworks being forced to justify themselves. 10 years ago, you needed a framework to build a serious app. Today, you need a framework if you want strict conventions, ecosystem lock-in, or if your team values certain ergonomics. That's a fundamental difference. Frameworks are moving from necessity to preference. I think this kind of relates to an article we read a few days ago, where it shouldn't be that we use React by default. We should consider other options that was mentioned in those articles for pros and cons, because React is good, but it's not always the best. Depends on the use case. The performance argument, native versus frameworks. For years, frameworks carried the excuse that the web was too chaotic, so the trade-off in performance was worth it. Developers tolerated bloated bundles, hydration headaches, and runtime hacks because the developer experience seemed worth it. The argument is weaker now. Native solutions often outperform framework equivalents. It's as simple as custom elements render faster than many virtual DOM abstractions. CSS container queries eliminate entire classes of layout hacks once handled with brittle JavaScript. The navigation API replaces heavy client-side routers that demanded kilobytes of code just to mimic native navigation. Even more brutal is the impact on performance-sensitive environments, mobile-first apps, emerging market connectivity, and edge computing demand efficiency. A React SPA bloated with dependencies looks foolish next to a lean, standards-based app that loads instantly and runs smoothly. Browser vendors are practically daring developers to stop shipping megabytes of JavaScript and use tools already built in. And in this context, frameworks look like a performance liability rather than a productivity tool. I would really like to see how a website that's already built with React gets translated into something lighter weight using these capabilities. I think I would learn a lot from that. I think things like this, I would really like to see like examples on this article. I think that would make me click faster. The politics of developer mindshare. The fight here isn't purely technical, it's political. Frameworks have massive marketing machines, backed by corporations with vested interests. Meta props up React because it powers their empire. Google props up Angular because it keeps developers tied to their ecosystem. Standards, in contrast, are slow-moving committees and working groups. They lack the branding and hype cycles that frameworks thrive on. That's true. I think standards are more community-based hype, which could be very powerful, but it's harder to make it organized. But something is changing. Browser vendors are increasingly aware that frameworks can't be allowed to dictate the direction of web forever. Standards are being designed to compete directly with framework features, not lag behind them. And the rise of communities like Open Web Components shows that there is an appetite for collaboration with corporate gatekeepers. Still, the cultural inertia is real. Universities teach React, bootcamps push Angular, and job listings are written in framework-specific language. That's 100% for sure. Standards have a PR problem. I think that's one of the reasons why I started with React, because I started learning web development through Free Code Camp, and one of the things they taught was React, and I started with that. I used that. That's what I'm used to. I have stuck with that so far. So it's a kind of a cycle, because a lot of people use that, a lot of people use that in practice, a lot of people teach that, and then the cycle continues. They need evangelists willing to show developers that the modern platform is powerful enough without an extra layer of bloat. Until then, frameworks will hold on through sheer mindshare, even if their technical moat is shrinking. Final thoughts. Frameworks once saved the web from its own incompetence. Today, they're starting to look like a middleman at a party the browser now hosts. If you're still writing code as if the browser can't handle it, you're ignoring the most important shift in front-end development in 20 years. I'm excited for it. I'm excited if there is a shift, because even with my lack of broad knowledge and experience, I can see that React is already very bloated. It's every time I do a project, I know that it's much more bloated than what I need. And again, I think it's me working on some quite a regular, normal projects. I'm sure there are other projects that require all the functionalities that React offers, but I think I would say 95% of times it's much more bloated than is necessary. Frameworks won't vanish tomorrow, but their dominance is already eroding. The standards movement is the sharpest it's been in decades, and browsers are devouring framework cakes slice by slice. Developers who cling blindly to frameworks risk shipping bloated, outdated apps while the rest of the web races ahead. The message is simple. It's time to take the browser seriously again. I'm really looking forward to how this evolves, because I think it's time that we need some sort of innovation. We need something other than React, something other than these frameworks that we're used to. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to that. And it would be more exciting learning and education. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Let me know especially what browser you use and why you like that over other ones. But thank you guys for watching, and like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.